Welcome to The Bright Life, a podcast where we share amazing conversations with fascinating people who make our day a little bit brighter.
Hi, I'm Silvana Arias.
And hi, I'm Polly Arias, and today we have the pleasure of having two talented voiceover actors, Alex Ruiz and Romulo Bernal, who will share with us their fascinating stories about their career.
Hi.
Hi, guys.
Hey, how
How
you
are
doing?
you? Where are
What's
you?
up?
So far, so good. Excited to be here. Thanks for having us.
Yes, me too. I'm very excited. Thank
Where
you.
are you right now?
I'm in Miami.
Oh, wow.
I'm in Los Angeles at the
Hey.
present moment. I saw you guys yesterday, so
Yes.
or 2 days ago. 2 days ago.
Okay,
Yeah.
so first of all, tell us, how did you start in voiceover and what is it that you love about your career?
Take it away, Alex. You can
Oh,
go first.
I was doing a commercial, which happens to be the first commercial I ever did. Was like maybe 18 years ago or something. And the script supervisor liked my voice. And she contacted me with someone that does commercials as well for voiceover. And I just kind of started from there, it clicked. And then I started doing a bunch of commercials and stuff, but didn't really have like an agent or anything until I went to Miami about 10 years ago and I met Rom. And then our friend, we all know her, Carolina Ayala, introduced me to Ram, and it was like we clicked. We became friends, fast friends, and we started working together. And then, even though I was doing commercials, a lot of commercials before, all voiceover, it didn't kick in until I started doing cartoons, which is where I started with Ram. It was just once you're in the booth, I fell in love with it, and then working with Ram was amazing. And then it's like, all right, let's keep doing this. So they just kind of snowballed. Yeah.
It's
And
funny
you,
that you say that we met and we clicked immediately. We did, but it was so funny because it was so fast.
You like video games? Yeah, I love video games. Oh my
That's it.
god!
And she was like, getting married already. It was so funny. I'll never forget. I'll never forget. Well, the way I got into it was pretty actually serendipitous because like first and foremost, I'm a musician. I've done it all my life. My family's musician, not necessarily professionally. Some are, but we just have it it just runs in our family. Everybody either plays guitar, sings, plays piano, whatnot. So I was always around that environment. I never had any sort of job security. I never had any savings. I never had any insurance. So I was like, I'm getting older. Eventually, I'm going to want to start a family, maybe buy a house or whatever. So let me get some sort of a degree that I can have under my belt that I can, I don't know, get some sort of, I guess, a salary job. So I decided to go into sound engineering because as a musician, I'm like, worst case scenario, I'll just work at a studio. I'll produce a band, a hip hop group. I'll still be involved in music. Well, joke's on me. I graduated and nobody was hiring. There was no studios hiring. And I'm like, what am I going to do? I just spent like 4 months, 5 months trying to get this degree. And now like there's no job security. Like, what am I going to do? A friend of mine at the time says, hey, listen, there's a studio that's doing like an internship program. It turns out it's a dubbing studio. And I was like, oh, that's cool. And I remember as a kid, I was like, oh, the dubbing is cool. The voices, I used to entertain that idea. It's like, oh, I would love to voice a character in a video game and whatnot. So all those memories came back and I was like, oh, that's cool. I guess I don't mind working here. It's still involving audio. And I guess long story short, 10 years later, here we are. I have a new career, new love, a new art form that I love that I never in my mind would have imagined I'd be doing. And I feel very privileged. I don't take this for granted. I know that this could change at any moment. So I'm kind of enjoying every little bit of it. But yeah, I basically am now doing the music and the voiceover work too.
have you noticed any shifts in the audience preferences or trends like through all these 10 years that you've been working in voiceovers? Maybe the clients are asking you for different things or styles or deliveries, or is the same?
As far as like I guess in the anime community, I'll get a little bit specific, but just to give you an idea, there's always been this war, dubs versus subs. Oh, how do you watch your anime? Oh, I watch it dubbed. Oh, I don't watch it. I watch it
Yeah.
in the language. I like to read the text. So that really changed when the pandemic happened. Like I noticed it in real time because we were all locked in, and we all we had to do was just watch stuff. So a lot of companies started to dub their content more, and on top of that, they started realizing how important dubs were becoming because now which is also something that was pretty like eye-opening for myself as a dubbing director. Go figure, you'd think I would go in there knowing this, but like I realized it like on the job how important the dub is because um I always say this. Now you can like share these wonderful stories and profound themes with like people in a different language. Like my mom's not going to sit there and try to read subtitles and at the same time, she's not even into anime.
Right.
So to get her to watch it and to give her an extra layer, an obstacle, like, oh, you got to read, she's not going to do it. But watching it in her native tongue, she's able to connect with the characters now. And I'll give an example. We were watching, because I was like, oh, Mom, this is what I do, check this out. And so she started watching the anime. In the beginning, she was watching it just to, support me and let him, see what my son's doing. I'm not
Typical
really
Latin mom.
but yeah, exactly. Let me just support my
You
son.
were great, honey.
Yeah, you were terrible.
Right?
That was amazing.
That was amazing.
He's not
But
terrible. He's
in
amazing.
the process of her trying to just complacerme and try to let me do this for my son, she ended up connecting with the characters to a point where I would look at her and I could tell she was like connected. She's like, oh my God, is this guy gonna die? And I was like, she gets it now. Like she's not,
Yeah.
like we get it. So
cool.
ever since that happened, I believe that, the dubbing industry has come a little bit more in the forefront. It's a little bit more important now because now everything is being dubbed in all sorts of languages: German, French, Italian, Spanish, Portuguese, and now all these cultures can enjoy the same stories and have an appreciation like we do. So I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah. From the actor's point of view, when audition, I think you can probably attest to this, Rom. I don't think that there's been a lot of change. I feel like, and this has been a uphill battle for voice actors, is that they're not as respected as regular actors, and that's the gripe that I have, is that we're actors. We're in the booth, and we're we have to create this space in this 5x5 little cell, and you have to create a world in there, and you have very limited time to do it, and you have to perform, especially in we talked about anime, in cartoons like anime. There's some strong acting there. There's deaths, there's crying, there's emotion. You really have to show that. So when you audition, with the pandemic, I feel like there's a lot more, not necessarily competition, but there's just a lot more people with access, from all over the world. But it all comes down to the same thing. You have to act. You not just because you have like a microphone, and some headphones, you can do something. You gotta perform. You gotta know how to act and do this. So I feel like that's always been the case when you audition. Even when I auditioned 10, 15 years ago, it's no, you have to act. You have to do this.
Yeah. Sorry to interrupt, but also with the pandemic, I wanted to know how it changed, because you used to go to a studio, you used to have a sound engineer that was in charge of everything, but with the pandemic, you had to start with your own equipment and maybe put your closet as your studio at home.
Invest money.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I did with the help of Rom, because I used to go to Miami and record. Obviously here in LA, I would go to studios, and auditioning was tough. Sometimes I'd have to go to a studio or a person's house who had it, rent out a studio just to audition.
Yeah.
And then the pandemic happened and everything, and Rom, you were, when you talk about this, you'll let us know, but he helped me with setting up my little studio here while he was in Miami. He was a sweetheart. This is the kind of stuff you pay for. Like, you get someone, please help me. I have no idea, and now with auditioning, you have to do everything. You're editing, you have to, put it all together and then send it out.
You learn skills.
Right. Yeah. You learn all these skills together. I prefer to be in the booth with anything. I don't like to edit. I just want to focus on the character and just do it. But, now I'm comfortable enough now that I can, it's safe to do the whole electronic thing and engineering thing and editing thing. I feel confident enough that I'm like, it's fine. I can do it here.
Well, it has changed. It has changed a lot in those.
It's interesting because it's caused what I like to consider like a renaissance, because what it did is it shook the industry, and a lot of people had to reinvent themselves. So people that were just used to just, like Alex said, show up to the studio and just do their thing. Now they have to learn gain structure, how to route audio, how to edit audio, how to use tools, how to send the audio, all these extra things that they never would have had to do. That was an engineer's job. They had to learn all these extra tricks in order to not only just to be able to work, but just to be a little bit more, I guess, in a sense, attractive, because like, oh, this guy knows all this, so I rather, I could count on
it's easier.
I could deal with him. He has he has the tools. He's more accessible. So that kind of like shook the industry, and some people got left behind, unfortunately, and other people stepped up. Some people were just like, that's not what I do, but I'm an actor. And I get it. I understand where they're coming from. But I mean, what are we going to do? It is what it is. I need this to be done a certain way. And if you can't cut it, unfortunately, I got to find somebody that has all these access, that understands what we require and knows how to deliver stuff exactly how we ask for it. So it did create like a new, I guess, breed of voice actors, because now your typical voice actor, they all have their home set up. You can communicate them technically, and they all know what you're talking about. And I thought that was pretty interesting, like, because I see this happen. I saw this happen in real time. I saw people like just fade away who were like titans in the industry for like 20 years, and all of a sudden they just fade away. And all these new cats came in that knew how to, how to work an interface, how to work a mic positioning, stuff that they never had to do, because the engineer, when they go to the studio, would take care of that for you.
Exactly.
You know what's the best part of everything of all this is that especially living in LA with the traffic and everything, you just wake up, stretch, get some coffee, then go to the other room.
Yo,
Sit up,
I
be in
will
your
never
undies and
forget
just, all right, let's
the
record
first
this.
time. I'll never forget the first time I had my first remote session was with Pablo Azar. And I told him,
all right.
I go, Pablo, this is amazing. I'm legit in my PJs right now, drinking. I just rolled out of bed. He's like,
it's great.
He's like, yeah, bro, me too, bro. I'm like, this is amazing. We're in the future.
Guys, I want
Let's
to talk
record
about the
cartoons.
future now that you're mentioning this thing that shake the industry sometimes. What about AI and all these technological new things coming out? Do you think that it's going to change the way you're working? Voice cloning, it's a big thing right now. How do you see your work in the future with all this new stuff?
Yeah, now that we're talking about reinventing ourselves,
Yes.
Some people see it as I don't know, they're scared about AI, but as you said, Rom, you just see the bright side of things, and then just
It's
push
funny because that's
forward.
kind of what my outlook is, but I'm still a little indifferent because so with new technology comes, new jobs, but also other jobs are lost. Now, right now, I think it's a little too nascent to see where it's going, because there's no rules, there's no really regulation. So you're going to see a lot of YouTube videos with people stealing voices and stuff like that. And there's really no penalties for that. I mean, little by little, on a situational basis, we're going to start, I guess, figuring out how to manage this. But the way I see it is that as much as I don't necessarily like it, I have to accept it, because it's gonna come. It's already here. There's no point in me like, oh, I'm gonna fight against it. Everybody deny jobs. Like, it's gonna happen. It already happened to me in the Renaissance in music, because I'm a drummer, and for a lot of time I made my living going to a studio and playing and learning the parts. Now there's software that sound even better than most studios, and engineers just program it. But what did I do? Rather than just like, oh, I'm going to rail against the electronic drums. No, I learned how to program, and now I'm still working because I know how to program the drums. And that's kind of what's happening with AI. Yeah, it's pretty scary, but you still need to feed the computer information. So what I'm looking at right now is just how to still become a useful tool with this new technology. And right now, what I've seen people doing is they're learning how to what's called prompt, and that's just like how to feed the computer the information. Because at the end of the day, you still need to tell it what to do. But it still is pretty scary, I'm not gonna lie, because there's a lot of shady practices going around. I've already had auditions where they're like, hey, we'll pay you $1,000 for just an hour of work for like a voice bank project. And I'm like, voice bank, I know what that is. And
Right.
basically you're just selling away your voice forever. So with this new technology, new laws are going to have to be drafted up. I'm sure new contracts are going to be, agents are going to have to also be aware of this and how to market their talent. So it is another renaissance. I'm not too excited about it, but I do know that we're gonna have to adapt it some way or another.
It's just hard to tell. It's hard to tell where it's going because this is all brand new. And like Ram said, it's not regulated. So some people are taking advantage very quickly because there's no laws or rules or anything right now. So there has to be some kind of regulation, some form of control. Otherwise, it's going to go crazy. I mean, a lot of people already, some people like Ram, I know a couple of people whose voices have gotten, they're stolen or they're being used. And they're like, wait a minute, that's my voice. Where's my money? So it is scary. I don't know where it's going. I know it's even if it is regulated, it's the future, whatever that is. I don't know. I think a lot of people are scared because they don't know. A lot of artists right now are pretty wary of what they can do and say, and it's a little scary. I'm a little scared too. Thankfully, we're working. I'm still going to work. I'm still going to do as much as I can until if something happens. But right now it's just hard to say, man. It's hard to see where this whole AI thing is going to go, but you know,
The
whatever.
best thing you could do is just like educate yourself with like buzzwords. So if you ever hear, oh, a voice bank project, that's already like a red flag. Like, I think I know what that is.
Yeah.
Because again, studios, most of these AI companies are offering studios a lot of money to create these voice banks. So these studios are kind of like finding a way to word things a certain way
Yeah,
to
they
kind of
are.
like get you in there, because once they record you, that's it. It's recorded. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
They'll offer you some money and it'll look attractive. Yeah, but what you're exchanging for that amount of money is really not.
Well, I mean, especially for young people or people who are just starting, they don't know anything. So, they get an email like that, $1,000 for, 15-minute work. Just say a couple lines. Oh yeah, I mean, that sounds amazing, but that is it. Your voice is gone. That's the kind of thing that we're working with here.
Advice for newcomers in a minute. But
I will tell you one thing.
Right.
Something that I did.
I'm sure you have many.
One thing that I found very interesting. I don't know them personally, but I've seen a couple of voice actors who are actually kind of taking heat for it. We're trying to be in front of this game, and what they've created are like NFT versions of their voice, where they copyright their voice and they sell voice packs to these AI companies.
Oh my God.
Wild.
I've never heard of that. That's crazy.
That's what I'm saying. Like, these are people
Smart.
that are finding their way around how to maneuver this.
Yeah.
Whether I agree with it or not, I'm still having a hard time kind of rationalizing all this. But like, it's wild, man. It's wild west right now with this.
Yeah, man.
Okay, moving on to happier topics then. Could you share a memorable project that you were part of? Maybe, I don't know, a show that you were a fan when you were a kid, and you had the pleasure of working in there. Do you have any of those stories?
Yeah. I have a couple. When it comes to voicing, voicing South Park was amazing. First of all, recording for South Park is the funniest time you'll ever have, because just the stuff that's written on the page and you have to say out loud is like, wild. Man, this is insane, but it's hilarious. I mean, sometimes
Ram is a situation where you're reading and you can't stop laughing.
Yeah. Oh, many. I
book sessions with them an hour, even if I only have to record 5 lines, because we spend so much time laughing.
Yeah, and we talk about it, and then. I mean, sometimes it's so vulgar too that it's like, oh man, I mean, this is tough. And then Ram is like, man, I know this isn't you, but you just got to say it, I mean, have fun with it. So it's like, all right, so you just let it out, and it's crazy and it's so much fun. And then seeing it is really cool. And then, hearing my brother when I went to Michigan, because that's where my family's from, and I visited, my brother actually pulled out the DVD set and he asked me to sign it. And I was like, what are you doing? What are you doing? No, I'm not going to sign. I didn't end up signing. I'm like, get out of here, man. What are you doing?
Sign it.
Why would I sign it? You're my brother, man. Yeah.
Sell it later. And you were part of that iconic episode with Harry and Meghan, right?
Oh, yeah. The most recent, or one of the recent ones. Yeah. I was Harry.
You were in that show, what episode? Which character were you?
I was Harry. So I was Prince Harry. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's my
favorite episode. It was so, again, South Park is so much fun. And I think the other one, which coincidentally happens to have Ram in it too, is being a part of a video game. My first video game was, I did a video game called Mafia 3. That was for Xbox and PlayStation and whatnot. And it was a side quest, and I was like the main guy in the side quest that you have to save and whatever. So, they flew me over to San Francisco, and I did some motion capture, which was unbelievable. It was so much fun to do motion capture and being in this huge studio with nothing but, the suit and the little balls that they put all around you. You're walking in there and you're trying to imagine the space you're in, and you're working, and it was amazing. And then Ram was the engineer for it, right? Or the sound,
for a couple pickup lines.
For a few lines, and that was fun because we worked together a little bit in that game. And then seeing the actual game once you're playing it, and seeing my face, with the weird hair. Oh, by the way, I have this for people. I mean, if you can't see it, yeah, it's a Mafia 3 Alvarez Funko Pop. So it's me. It's
that's amazing.
One of my little treasures.
You're in My Hero Academia too, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Yes.
That's great. Like, such a big show.
It's huge.
Yeah. All over the world.
Yeah, I mean, Ram, you've been traveling and doing stuff.
I did a couple
cons and stuff.
Just to piggyback off of Alex, one of the really I guess moments where I was moved is I didn't really know who the Spanish voices were for certain. I didn't even know who the players were in the dubbing world. Like who are the top dubbers? You know, Mario Castañeda. You know, Pepe Toño Macías. I didn't know about that world. But when we started doing My Hero Academia, obviously since it's such a big show, it was just inevitable that I started noticing that people were like talking about our studio and about me since I was the director. So then I started like learning who's who and who are the voices of our generation, our generations before that, and that's kind of when I started catching on. I'm like, okay, this is like I understand how important dubbing is in Latin
Yeah,
America.
yeah,
So when I did My Hero, I was like, I was proud because I'm like, this is amazing. I'm in an anime. Like, got invited to my first con in Mexico. I went to Toluca, Mexico. They paid for
Wow.
it, and I was like, this is amazing. So I get to Mexico, and it was just okay. Prior to me getting to Mexico, I had already done a couple of cons in the US because what they're trying to do is they're trying to push, you know, for the Spanish actors to promote that there's a Spanish dub, you know, the diversity, that there's Latin talents and all that stuff. So I had already done a couple of cons, and of course, you know, I go there and nobody really came to my table, maybe a couple of people, and only because they just were learning that there was a Spanish dub. So there were Latinos, but they didn't really know that there was a Spanish dub. So I went to Mexico, and I'll never forget. Like I walked in, and I was in the hotel, and I said, "Hey, listen, I'm gonna go to the event. You know, I'll meet you at the front door." And they were like, "No, don't go to the front door." And I'm like, "Why?" They're like, "Because they're gonna recognize you." And I go, "Recognize me? What do you mean? Like, you know, I'm just chico aquí en Hialeah. They're not gonna know me." I walk in there and I'm like, I'm gonna go in there because you know I'm a fan. You know, I want to go look at the artwork. I want to buy stuff. And little by little, people started like walking up to me. Oh, tú eres la voz de Bakugo. I'm like, yeah, yeah, cool. Oh, can you sign this for me? Like, yeah, for sure. I signed it. And people started noticing. And I started having like a little group. And I'm just like, oh, this is cute. You know, like whatever. And people walked up to
This
me and
is
they were like,
cute.
hey, listen, you need to go to the back because like people paid for this, and it's kind of not fair that you know you're here doing it for free. And I was like, oh, my bad. And
Yeah, yeah,
they like security just pulled me out. I couldn't be there. It's like,
Wow.
okay, that's interesting. So then they're like, okay, well, your autograph section is only for 45 minutes. And I'm thinking we're gonna be done in 20, bro. Like nobody knows me, you know. And I'm not saying this to like flex or anything. I'm just saying just to show like what a difference it was. So it comes time for me to do the signings. Yo, long story short, I was there for an hour and a half. An hour.
Wow.
I couldn't believe it. People were like literally like shaking to talk to me, and I'm like, this is so weird. Like I'm just like you.
Talk to me.
Like I'm just like you know. Like I like these animes, you know.
I'm a
Like
fan. Yeah.
I'm a fan, you know. I just I love,
Yeah.
you know. I couldn't take it serious. So that's when I realized, you know, these people would tell me, you understand, you know, that scene that you did, like it really helped me get through hard times, and that's when I got
No.
really emotional. I was like,
Yeah, man.
oh, you know, because I know
Strong.
how I felt when I've seen shows that I watch in English, and I'm like, damn, bro, that scene really helped me. So to be able to have help, even if it was one person, like that made me realize like how important dubbing is, and that kind of like
Yeah.
changed my whole mindset forever.
I think it's important that you know, growing up with cartoons and watching shows like that, you know, I mean, again, with the Simpsons or Dragon Ball or anything like that, I still like if I see those people, I'm like, oh my God, this is,
Same.
I don't know what to say to you. You shaped my, in some way, shape, or form. You shaped my life, my sense of humor, you know, something, and
Yeah.
it's crazy. So knowing that, of course, if someone comes up to you and you want to, you know, they want to sign something, or it's like, absolutely, that's probably why you were like, yeah, I'll sign anything, because
Yeah,
I've been on the other side too.
yeah,
I love it, you know.
Yeah,
And it's, you know,
exactly.
you're more appreciative of it.
And you guys, like, you are actors. Like, you have to deliver that emotion with your voice, and that's really hard. So when a fan comes to you and says, hey, you really helped me, or you really touched me, that meant that you did your job the way it's supposed to be. Nobody can do your job, guys. It's great to hear all these stories. And you were a fan of Candy. I was a fan of Lady Oscar. And we wanted to see the people that were dubbing
And
all
the
those shows.
voice, you keep it for your whole life.
Yes.
It's in your
Yep.
mind.
And
Yeah,
you
yeah,
try
yeah.
to imitate it, and you'll never see the cartoons in real life and hug them, of course. So
But
you
the
are the
voice.
closest
Oh, that's a
person.
good point. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
you're
good.
the human touch to
Mhm.
that
Yeah.
fantasy.
Yeah.
Right.
You're the
Right,
only
right.
human touch to that fantasy, to
Yeah,
that character.
that's amazing.
it
Yeah,
feels
that's
So
great.
really
now
feels
that
really,
you told us about your memorable projects, tell us where are you now so we can go see you or hear you.
well, I did want to say really quick that I really appreciate everything you just said, because as artists, I'm sure we can all like share this feeling. I've been in the business for 10 years, but technically I want to say I've been doing like the voice actor part for maybe the better of maybe 6 or 7 years. So I consider myself relatively new here. But I have a massive case of imposter syndrome, and it took me a while for me to be like, I'm an actor, you know? And so hearing you guys say that, it's just like, wow, like that really means a lot, because Alex, that's he's an actor. That guy's the man. That guy's done a lot more stuff than I've ever done. You know, I've just been dubbing, you know. So I look at him like that's a real actor, you know what I'm saying? Uh
You
I
too. You too.
no, again, I appreciate it, but it took me a while to like accept this role. So I really appreciate the kind words you just said. So I wanted to
It's the
put that out
truth.
there.
It's the truth.
What was the question? I'm sorry.
Yes. Is there any project right now out that we can go and hear you? Is there anything out that we could go just
Well,
promote?
something that's being done right now, which is really interesting, is that a lot of small time studios are now they're now tackling the YouTube market. So while major studios are dubbing stuff for Netflix, Amazon Prime, and whatnot, there's a lot of small companies, DIY companies within people that just form a corporation, that are now like pitching these dubbing services to YouTubers. So
Wow.
for example, there's a YouTube channel called Mr. Spherical, and it's basically animation of like little balls, and they do like a planet one, and they do one about the body and stuff like that. And I recently got casted for the Spanish voice of the main character in the Astrobolas, is called in Spanish. And
Awesome.
they're just 3 to 4 minute shorts, you know. And I have such a good time because they talk about like scientific stuff, but very like a sitcom, you know. It's very funny, you know, and the planets talk to each other. So if you go on YouTube, there it's called Mr. Spherical Astrobolas. I play one of the
Astrobolas. I love it. It's
yeah,
a great
it's
title.
I'll send
Such
you
a
I'll
great
send you
title.
some videos later, Alex, so you can it's super fun.
Yeah.
I'll
It's
put
so
you on to
cool.
them too. They would probably love to record. They know about you.
Oh,
um
awesome.
it's the people that we game with in the Discord on Fridays and stuff like that.
Oh, cool.
So
Very
that's
cool.
pretty cool. That's one of the projects I'm excited for. Also, I mean, obviously we did My Hero Academia season 6, and I think season 7 is in the work. Hopefully, we'll get to continue dubbing it. But as far as right now, yeah, I think Astro Bolas is probably the fun.
I will see you there.
Yeah.
You,
Astrobolas.
Alex.
Yeah, I did. I just did an audiobook called Viva Pinocho. It's in Spanish and in English, and it's coming out in September. It's an actual book. It started as a play, and it's Pinocchio, obviously the story of Pinocchio, but as an immigrant. You know, the whole story of Pinocchio is actually him as an immigrant going to the other side, and then him not being able to come back because he's trapped there. So I play, Stromboli, the guy, the bad guy. That audiobook comes out sometime in September. And then doing a cartoon called Rey Misterio, which is funny because it started in Spanish and I'm dubbing it in English. So it's like the other way around. But I don't know if I can say who I play, but I'm just part of that. I just recorded it. Yeah, that comes out in Cartoon Network. And then Blue Beetle as well. I do some voicing there. You'll see me in one of the, well, not see me, but hear me in one of the end credits scenes.
Great. And it's amazing how you guys do Spanish, Portuguese, English. How important is to know all these languages to know them perfectly.
My God, it's so important. It's crazy how important it is. And it's funny because I didn't realize how important, obviously, when I was younger, and how my parents, credit to my parents, my beautiful parents, who pushed for me to speak Spanish, because I moved here in the US when I was like 9 years old. So at that age, you tend to either lose the language or have a strong accent. But they kept pushing, and if we don't know a word, go to the dictionary. I hated that dictionary. It was a dictionary that was like propped in one of the rooms, like in my dad's
Like a real book.
office, big book just opened right there, and you're like, oh, that stupid dictionary. But it works. And now, working in Spanish and working in English with no accent in either is just it's great.
And
It's
it's
for
funny that
me
you
for
hated the dictionary, but now you work with words.
Oh, I love it. Now it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Funny.
yeah. But yes, I would say it's incredibly important to know two languages. I've gotten a lot of jobs. Most of the jobs I'd say are in Spanish, but it goes both ways. I do both, even accents, throw accents, whatever. It's so important to find your voice too, which is something that everyone in voice should do is recognize your voice, yourself, of course, but also your voice and what you're good at, what you can do, and really, practice and sometimes when people talk, I I I say what they said, trying to like match their voice or their energy, or maybe exaggerate it a little. It's not that I'm making fun of them. It's just what I've always done since I was a kid. And I just kind of realized like, I love voices. I love hearing people. I love characters. I love different things that people say or do, or sometimes I walk around and I just say movie quotes, not because I'm crazy about the movie, but the way it was said, I like saying it. It feels good coming out of my mouth when I say a specific quote. I'm like, oh, I just needed to say it. I just love it. It's just so much fun. Yeah. But it's it's fun. It's fun.
That's great. That's
Mhm.
amazing.
Yeah.
We could talk to you guys for hours and hours because I think it's really interesting. I'm in love with voice actors. Like it's an amazing job, but like you were saying at the beginning, you have a couple of
Tips.
advices or tips that you can give to the
Newcomers.
people that are watching right now that want to start a career in voice acting. What will you tell them?
Well, one thing I can do is basically advise I would like to have a shift in mindset. And I know Alex will agree with me on this because I can't tell you how many times people walk up to me and they're like, you know what? I want to do that voice. I could do funny voices.
Oh.
I want a job in voice acting. Yo, eso de las vocecitas. Like
De las vocecitas.
yeah,
Oh.
that's the worst one.
So-
It's not. I'll tell you one thing. Like 75% of the gigs we do in voice acting does not require a funny voice. Like it's not. It's your regular voice. Good old acting. What I always tell people when they ask me, because I do get this question a lot from people that want to start voice acting. First and foremost, that I can tell you is learn how to handle cold reading. And the good news about that is that it's free. You don't got to take a class for that. Just pick up anything and read out loud. Why? Because normally us as human beings, we process, or the brain's really powerful, and we are able to process phrases with just maybe the first word and the last word and context clues, and your brain already knows what we're talking about. But when you're reading out loud, you now have to like mechanize everything in your brain out through your mouth, and that's where the tricky part comes in, because it's not so much that you need to learn how to pronounce certain words. It's sometimes just a combination of words that'll just trip you up, and in the dubbing situation, Alex will tell you, we don't have the luxury of maybe a theater performance or some other movie where they give you the script like a month ahead of time. Practice it, learn your lines. No. You don't know what you're doing until you step into that booth. Hey, Alex, tomorrow for an hour. You got an hour? Yeah, sure. What are we doing? You'll see it when you get here.
Yeah, you'll see. It's tough. It's
Wow, I
not
didn't know
easy. And then
that.
it's
He gets
you
in the
see a
booth,
character and you just
and I just tell him, all right, here's what's going on. The enemies are coming. They're surrounding you. You only got this, and this is happening. Go.
Okay, let's go.
That's
Yeah,
I'll
it's
play
not
this
easy, man.
one time so they can watch it, but then they have to go. And so it's better for you to have the whole diction portion and cold reading down. Why? Because now your brain could just focus on the interpretation and acting. In the beginning, that's one of the things that I struggled with because I wasn't a good cold reader. So I had to, part of my brain had to focus on reading, and so the acting would suffer a little bit, and vice versa. So if you read out loud every day, it doesn't matter what it is, you begin to learn to be able to process those words and be able to produce them with your voice in real time. And the faster you can do that, the more efficient you become, and the easier it is to just focus on the interpretation.
Ram is giving a class today.
No,
Yeah, man, which
they
is
ask
true.
this all the time.
Yeah, I say the first thing, I mean, before I would try, and I always try to help if people have questions. Of course, I want to help out or whatever. But the same thing, if someone's like, what do I do to get into voicing, even acting too? What do I do? First thing and only thing I will ever say now is take classes. Take a class. I don't care what it is. I don't care who it is. Whatever you hear, take a class, because you're going to learn so much, and you're going to meet some people as well there. You know, I mean, you have to take classes. This is a legitimate job.
Art form.
This is an art form. You have to understand the art, and you have to understand yourself. If you don't know, then why are you even coming in here? Like Ram said, there's so many things that even classes don't teach you. And if you want to jump in that booth, you got to be ready to perform, to really like come at it. Like he was saying, Ram, which I credit Ram, by the way. He's a fantastic director. When you come in the booth and you don't talk to Ram before or whatever, like he said, he's like, I don't know what it is. I have like 3 characters for you. I trust him completely. All right. I go in, and you can tell that he's seen every episode. He knows the storyline. It's not like he just read about it. He's seen everything. So he describes everything with such fervor, such like passion, and he's excited about the show itself. Then you're like, oh man, then you get excited. And then it's like, it's so easy to get into character. But at the same time, I've done a million classes. I've worked a million booths, that kind of thing. And it's easy for me to switch on, like, okay, let's perform. Let's do it. Let's work, which is something that it's hard for people to do. It's like, it takes a little bit of time. Like they might say it once or twice, and it's like, no, okay, bring it up, something to feel, the world that you're creating in there. It's not easy at all. So yeah, when people come in, it's like, yeah, I feel like I want to make a few bucks. I'm thinking of doing voiceover. It's like, I'm done. I can't teach you. I can't talk to, I can't, it's like, all right, well, good luck. I mean, I can't, I don't know what to say to that anymore.
Only the pros will survive.
Las vocecitas is the most triggering one.
Las vocecitas. Yeah, when it's like, I want to make a few bucks, it's like, oh God, man.
Quiero decir eso de las vocecitas. I'm like,
las vocecitas.
Sí, no,
Yeah.
las vocecitas, qué fatal.
No.
Thank you guys for doing this, for accepting our invitation and sharing.
Thank you for having us.
It was a pleasure, actually. It was a pleasure.
Thank you for having us. I appreciate that.
Yes, we should do part 2 soon. Good
Yes.
luck, and we'll watch all your shows.
Oh, I appreciate it. Thank
So
you.
now
You
we
better.
have faces now.
Because next interview, we're going to quiz you on them. So yeah.
All right.
Please, I have all the answers.
You got to watch all of My Hero Academia every season.
Okay.
Okay, until next time.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so
All right. Later, Rob. Bye,
See ya.
guys.
Bye-bye.